Chat, it has officially entered hoodie season out here in the garage. It might be cold, but nothing is going to keep me from looking over these reactions, first instant reactions that we're getting to a couple potential Oscar players. One is called Song Sung Blue from Focus Features, which premiered at AFI Fest in just the last few days. And yesterday, we got our initial social media reactions to Wicked for Good. Let's just say that when I saw them, I think I was levitating, perhaps defying gravity. Let's talk about these reactions. All right, let's bring it in here. I'm just going to look at Twitter. Do they call it X? We're not calling it X, are we? I don't want to call it X. Twitter, Wicked for Good. Hi, guys. I follow you. Follow me back, please. No? Okay, I got it. So let's see here. Yeah, NBC's doing the Wicked One Wonderful Night, which is going to be big. That's like a holiday special. I think it's airing next week, actually. Oh, it says right here, November 6th at 8 p.m. Eastern. Okay, Variety, 12 hours ago. Wicked for Good is drawing early, glowing reactions and already emerging as a major Oscar contender. Already emerging? Variety. That thing has emerged, okay? It's been above surface for quite a while now. At least if you listen to the Awards Garage. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Wicked for Good poised for Oscars with first reactions calling it heartbreakingly tender conclusion and jaw-dropping performances. Woo, doggy. Wait a minute. These are the audience reactions or people? No, I didn't see this. Oh my God. They're crying on TikTok. That's a good sign. Let's see. Following the first rave reactions, Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande are being lauded for their triumphant return as Elphaba and Glinda. No shit. So this one here says early reactions are saying that Wicked for Good is even better than Wicked. Thank you, Wanda's attorney. Wow, they didn't want this to be a legal issue. Good use of the GIF with Oprah there. So that's kind of how I feel. And also a little vindication because I did say in my predictions videos, by the way, there'll be an update next week. So all this will come into play when I update my predictions. Even though there's social media, we don't have official scores yet. I did always say that for me to feel really confident in Wicked for Good's chances, that it needed to be better than the first movie. And I didn't even necessarily mean better in terms of like the substance of the film, you know, the like narrative within the film, because we know, if you know the musical, you know that already. I meant more so like the way it's received. Is it an upgrade in terms of like the quality? Of course, the performances, because they didn't win last time, right? So for whatever reason, the Academy didn't think that Ari and Cynthia were good enough to give the victory, even though they were nominated in multiple outlets, not just the Oscars. So it would have to be better, right? Because then you're going to have the same situation where it's like, okay, that was a really good performance. You guys did great. You can sing. You're perfect for the roles, but you know, it's not the best performance of the year. I'll touch on this in depth next week when I do my updated power rankings. Cynthia being up against Jessie Buckley this year, this could change based on the reception of the various films involved in the race this year. But Jessie Buckley and Hamnet, I'm pretty sure is going to be the winner. I haven't seen that movie either, though, so I am a little hesitant to call the winner in October, you know? And I don't think really anybody should do that, but when you are a pundit and you're making predictions, that's kind of the game that you play, and then you change it if you need to change it. So right now, I do say Jessie Buckley's the one to beat, which is going to be really tough for Cynthia Erivo. The only thing for Cynthia is that the Academy may have a soft spot for her, knowing that she just needs the O to have her EGOT. And there's only a handful of people that have the EGOT, and that would be huge for her. And I think it would be deserving for her turn as Elphaba. Ariana Grande, on the other hand, I've had at number 1 in supporting actress, well, really for 2 years now, because I had her pretty much all of last year until it was obvious that Zoe was going to win that. And I started out this year for Wicked for Good with her being in my number 1 spot, and she has not moved from there. And I did my initial reactions back in like April, a month after the Oscars. So she's always been number 1 for me. I always thought she was going to win this if the performance was reviewed better and considered better performatively. You know, yeah, the songs, of course, and the singing and dancing and everything, but also the acting. I wouldn't say this, but some people on the Academy could say that in the first Wicked, she was maybe one note. She was that kind of like slapsticky bimbo kind of persona, you know, absent-minded, provided the comedy to the film. She did bring some emotion in the back half of that movie with her connection with Elphaba, but that really transitions into Act 2 of the musical, which is what we're going to be getting with For Good. So we haven't really seen the depth of that character of Glinda yet. So I was confident in saying that if she nails that, and if John M. Chu nails that transition and tone, then we're in good shape. Let's read a couple other ones here. All good deeds go rewarded. I like that. In Wicked for Good, it's an epic and heartbreakingly tender conclusion. Okay, so that was something that they quoted earlier. Nothing but positive for Wicked for Good on my timeline. Gotta love it. Gotta love it. Because everyone is asking structurally, Wicked for Good is Ariana Grande's movie in terms of central emotional arc, and she delivers it big time. Personally, I couldn't take my eyes off Cynthia Erivo. She's even better than she was in part one. And that comes from the Theater Mania. We're in good shape. Like, I think it got 10 nominations last year. I have it getting 8 currently, but after seeing these reactions, other stuff could be in the mix. I mean, you could be even looking at adapted screenplay, which is really tough for a musical to get. It doesn't happen a whole lot. So that could be 9. And then, if it also shows up again in costuming and production design, which based on the trailers, frankly, it should, the sky's the limit. I mean, you could have both original songs nominated, so then you're already up to 12, right? Versus what you had last year, if you hit in all the same areas. And then you add on director and Bailey. I mean, really, the only thing you can't get nominated for is best animated and best documentary. I mean, everything else is literally on the table, and it's shorts. I mean, that's it. And let's say it does get 12 or 13 nominations. Then it could really maybe not be your best picture winner, but when it comes to ranked balloting that happens in the best picture race, it could very easily be that like 2 or 3 that could leapfrog what is thought to be the number one among the punditry space. I think the number one right now, me personally, is Hamnet, but I've seen a lot of people putting One Battle After Another at number one. A couple people still have Sentimental Value at their number one. I think there's a juggling act going on. A couple people have Marty Supreme after the rave reviews of that film from one of the Safdie brothers. All those movies I just mentioned are more Oscar-y than a movie like Wicked for Good. It's a musical. Now, if you're talking about the Oscars in the 40s, 50s, 60s, and even 70s, then yeah, it was all musicals all the time. They were always nominated. A ton of winners for Best Picture were musicals, or at least music movies. But the Academy's obviously, evolved from that line of thinking, and they much more often reward narrative filmmaking. So Wicked for Good's up against that. But the more successful it is, and that starts now with the word of mouth, which is obviously positive, going all the way to the Academy Awards and definitely to nominations morning, and we see how many nominations it gets. I think, and I'm making a bold prediction here because you got One Battle After Another in the race this year. I think it's definitely going to be between the two of them, but I think as I'm sitting here right now, that Wicked for Good is going to get the most nominations of this year's Academy Awards. I'm not quite sure what I'm ready to throw my chips in on wins right now, but for nominations, I had it at 8 in October. I'm probably thinking 12, honestly. Going into November, I'm sitting around 12 nominations for this movie. That's if both original songs get in. That's if it hits for all the categories it hit in last year, minus maybe one of them. That's if it is, because it's probably number 6, even right now, even for adapted screenplay. And, you got Jonathan Bailey, you got John N. Chu that can sneak into the director. It's going to get a lot of nominations, and it's going to get key nominations that it didn't get last time. And it's going to win more than 2 Oscars, which is what it won last year. I'm standing by all that. If anything, this vindicated kind of what I've been saying as an awards predictor, if you will. So in October, I can actually look real quick and show you guys, so I'm shooting you straight. I'll go to my website. So on the Oscars predictions page, look what I've got on my best lead. I've been saying it even on the thumbnails for my website. So best picture, I had Wicked for Good at 5 in October. I think the only movies that you're looking at on the screen right here, and some of these aren't even in my 10 anymore, like House of Dynamite, but looking at these major players, the only ones that I think could beat Wicked for Good for Best Picture, and I'm just saying this at the end of October, is Hamnet and One Battle After Another. I don't think, even Sinners, I don't think any of those movies are going to compete with Wicked. Now, of course, we're not going to get the results of the voting except for the winner. We're not going to know what placed second or 10th, or we're not going to know. Wicked for Good on Letterboxd, I just wanted to see if any of the scores had loaded. They have not. It says over 6,000 people have watched it. It's not giving the curve though, which I think maybe that's because of the embargo. Letterboxd must be, trying to follow the rules there. But this is social media to me. I love Letterboxd. I'm a patron, as you see, but this is essentially a movie version of, Facebook, right? Or Instagram. But you look at the scores, 4, 5, 4, 5, 5, 5, 4.5, 4, 4. You get the idea. Here's a 2. Let's see what they say, because I want to take these into account as well. A lot of times people will review bomb just because they hate a person in a movie, or they hate the director, or they didn't like the first one, or and they don't actually see the movie, or if they do see it, they just go in knowing they're going to hate it. That happens a lot. So I'm not saying this person did that, so that's why I want to see if this is a legitimate review, because I do take those into account too, because at least then it gives you a neutral perspective as to what the shortcomings might be that a super fan's obviously not going to see. And it just says it's not whimsical. So that doesn't give me, really anything to go on there. It's just probably not for Myra time. It's probably not for her, and that's fine. I mean, not everybody's going to like everything everybody else likes. But you see all these. Look at all these scores. Okay, here's a half star, and this is most likely a review bomb. No review. A half star is wild. I mean, there's no way that Wicked for Good is a half star movie. So that's not even going to be taken seriously by hopefully anybody. Here's a 1 star, but there is a review for it. I also think this is probably dumb. Lesbians. I mean, that's stupid. You're not giving any feedback to anybody. And it says you rewatched it. So you're review bombing. You have not seen this movie, and you're going in and just leaving bad reviews and bad scores, which, frankly is disheartening. She says, technically, I can't even say that I watched this, but it's important to me that I remember how much it meant to me. Okay. Wicked in and of itself is a masterpiece, and it came into my life at a wonderful time. But Act 2, it read my mind. I can remember the first time I hear For Good and crying my eyes out. By the way, I got teary-eyed in the trailer when I heard that, so I know what she's talking about. It feels like it holds a space, hey, I see what you did there, in my mind, and it triggers an immediately emotional reaction. Now, see, that's a great review. But also, you know right away she's a super fan. The movie's done something for her emotionally that is, obviously not going to do for everybody. So, but I know what she's talking about. But the Wicked fans, which I'm in that group, by the way, the RNators, the Army, I'm there. But you do have to take these critical reviews into account too, or in some cases negative reviews, especially if they're, legitimate, because it will tell you what is wrong with the movie. And even though we might think it's perfect, and I might give it a 10 out of 10, I think I gave the first one an 8 out of 10. I did have minor gripes with it, but I thought it was one of the best movies of the year. And, but I'm going to try to remain in my movie critic space to be legitimate to anybody else that might tune into the video or read it on my website that's not a Wicked fan. You know what I mean? So I am grading it as a project versus as a, directed to me as a fan. So I do like to read those too, and they don't make me mad. Not everybody's going to like what I like. Not everybody's going to like Ariana Grande as an actress. I don't get it. She's one of my queens, but I'm not going to force it on anybody else at the same time. Let me go back to Twitter. So I feel really good about Wicked for Good. Let me transition to Song Sung Blue, because I'll see what comes up here. There are some folks that I know personally, that I follow and that I know. And a month ago, they had this movie at top 5. They had Kate Hudson at number 1. I just didn't. That's not what I do. I don't. If there's nothing tangible for me to grab onto, then I'm a little more reluctant to do something like that. But I will say that Kate Hudson, just because of who she is, right away I go, if this movie's even remotely loved in the industry and lifted up as a music biopic, then she could have a good shot, even if the movie didn't get anything else. I mean, it would obviously help if it had other stuff. Let's see what some of the reactions to this thing were. I read some of these too, and they seem to be a little more mixed, although largely positive. Metacritic even tweeted about it. They said reviews are in after the premiere of Song Sung Blue with Hugh Jackman, Kate Hudson. Is coming out on Christmas Day. It's a family movie in the best sense of the term, okay? A crowd pleaser with a ton of heart. Crowd pleasers do well. All right, so it says through Neil Diamond's songs, it explored the ups and downs of life. There were joys, tears, struggles, and a lot of love. I love the songs. The cast, especially Kate Hudson, will melt your hearts. It will be a crowd pleaser when it comes out at Christmas time. And you can see that. Oh, there's Neil Diamond on FaceTime. That's really cool. That's really cool. Imagine how nerve-wracking that is. Song Sung Blue has major Coda vibes. Take that information however you want. Interesting. He does that, man. He gets real cryptic, because it's do I take that as the feel-good aspect of it that we also got in Coda, the familial part? Or do I take that as he mean Oscars history-wise? Because I think Coda's a fine film. I don't hate it like a lot of people do. It became an Oscar villain in years since its win, which happens a lot of times with Best Picture winners. But does he mean this movie could be an Oscar villain this year? Too kind of vanilla to be in the Best Picture lineup, but it still is. I think that might kind of be what he's saying. I don't know. And I'm only saying that because I know Ryan and I kind of know his sensibilities. Let's see. David Lemon says, Song Sung Blue is unashamedly crowd-pleasing and tear-jerking, laughing with but never at the world of celebrity tributes. I loved it and strongly suspect it's going to be a word-of-mouth hit. So yeah, I think the main thing that everybody's thinking, is this a real thing? Song Sung Blue, people were saying that it was, but at the same time, if you stopped and kind of listened to what it was about and thought about it, didn't necessarily say that. Jim Belushi's in it. That's really cool. Song Sung Blue is a crowd pleaser. This is Daniel from NBP. He says, Kate Hudson and Hugh Jackman bring this couple to life with flair and are eating up every moment they're on screen. Not every moment fully works, but they're a joy to watch, especially Hudson. Okay, so here's what I'm going to say, and this is my very, very early initial reaction to these reactions, which were yesterday as I'm recording this. I think Song Sung Blue is not a Best Picture contender. I don't think. I'm going to transition to the Springsteen movie here in a second. So the only reason I would say that it might be is because that one is not anymore. You know, it was in a lot of people's 10s. It was in mine a couple months ago, and I considered it was like right around 10 or 11, and now it's like plummeted after seeing the movie. It's just not an Oscar film. And that's even that's saying that about a music biopic, which is saying a whole lot. I don't want to get too far down a Springsteen rabbit hole. We're going to get there in a second. But I think that Song Sung Blue and Focus should push Kate Hudson, and I think they are. I mean, I think that's the whole reason why this came into conversation a little too early, frankly, without having any of the festival premieres in the fall. I mean, AFI, but that's like kind of the end of, you know, we've already gotten all the major international film festivals, etc. But Focus basically put out a release and they said, look, we're going to push Kate Hudson for lead actress for this movie called Song Sung Blue. And it came onto my radar then, and it started going on to a lot of other people's radar because it's Kate Hudson, right? Previous Oscar nominee, Oscar player, and well loved, well adored. She has a narrative to go along with probably a great performance of not having been at the Oscars for over 20 years in terms of a nomination. She has the pedigree of being from a Hollywood family, from a family of actors that are also very well respected and have been there before as well. So because of just without even seeing anything other than these still images, you can immediately go as somebody who covers the Oscars that Kate Hudson's going to be a player. She might not end up in the 5, she might not win, but she's absolutely going to be in the conversation. That's kind of where I was prior to today or yesterday when I saw these reactions. I had her, I think, at like 8 or 9 in my predictions because I thought it was a big deal that Focus was already telling people we're basically giving her a campaign team for lead actress. I don't think the movie's going to get much else aside from if it shows up in terms of like music or text for score, that kind of stuff. But I doubt there's any original songs because this is a Neil Diamond cover band. That would be kind of ironic if there was an original song in a movie about a cover band. That would be super meta and funny, actually. I'm going to give Kate Hudson a very strong consideration, but I don't think anything else for that movie, which has happened. You know, actresses and actors and supporting categories, they tend to have at least one, not every single year. In fact, last year, I think it happened for the first time in a long time, if ever, that every single nominee in the lead categories were in a Best Picture nominee. That doesn't always happen. So even though Song Sung Blue might not get into picture, director, screenplay, that kind of stuff, which I don't think it will, Kate Hudson can still get in, especially since it's Kate Hudson. You know, the last one I wanted to look at some reactions to, let me see what comes up here. You know, I'm going to look at the scores too, but I just want to look at a few of these. And I haven't read these. I wrote my own review. It's on my website. I'll show you that in a second. I did a video for this. I'll tag it on here if you want to watch my video review. It's like 7 or 8 minutes long. Let's see. Movie File says, Deliver Me isn't a crowd pleaser in the traditional sense. It's not a 2-hour concert of his greatest hits designed to make you tap your feet and sing along. Instead, it's a slow-paced, I agree with that, introspective exploration of a man going through profound struggles. I agree with that to a certain extent, although it doesn't flesh it out enough. It's quiet at times, somber, and deeply reflective. Much like the Nebraska album itself, it offered something substantial, something that encouraged thought and empathy, rather than just superficial entertainment. The intent was there to everything that Movie Files says here. He knows the album Nebraska, this reviewer, you can tell. He knows Bruce. If you're not emotionally invested in that stuff before you go into the cinema, you won't feel the way that he felt. I am a casual fan of Bruce Springsteen. I know a lot of his songs. Truth be told, most of them are from Born in the USA or later, but I do know him. My dad listened to him. I like him as an artist, but I'm not, intimately familiar with his struggles in his personal life or his songwriting techniques or even the Nebraska album for that matter. So even somebody who likes Bruce Springsteen, I couldn't connect with this film. I saw the movie a few nights ago and I just left feeling void of any hope for Jeremy Allen White or for the film. I didn't think that it played like an Oscar-friendly film. You know, much to Movie Files' point here, music biopics get in a lot of times, but look at the ones that have gotten nominated in recent modern years, like Elvis, Bohemian Rhapsody, which I didn't agree with as far as an Oscar nominee, but in terms of like a feel-good tribute concert kind of to whatever band or artist it's about. I'm not saying I prefer that, but they do. They like that kind of like added feel-good part to it, component, and then you also get the component of making a lot of money at the box office, which this one has not done. It is already being considered a huge loss. Shauna Joy says, Deliver Me misses the mark as it tries to be a biopic. At the same time, it tries, man, I don't care, look at him. Yeah, he's hot. I mean, I'll give you that. So it debuted with 16.1 million at the box office. Not great. So there's another one you can see from Ashley there. Spooky Hellions. Good one for Halloween season. But you can tell, I mean, she's invested in the material. She knows a lot about it prior to going into the cinema. And the movie assumes that the people coming to see it are going to be able to connect to it. And I just couldn't, and that's somebody that likes Springsteen. I think White is out. I think the movie is out. I don't think there was really ever a shot for Scott Cooper, but that's definitely out now. You could see nominations for a couple texts like Best Sound or Production Design or Costumes, but I highly, highly doubt it. Yeah, I think this one is a nothing burger at the Academy Awards this year, which is unfortunate. I could be wrong, and the love and the adoration for Jeremy Allen White as a young, up-and-coming actor could supersede the qualms I have with the film, because his performance is not bad. I think most of the shortcomings of the movie are in the pacing and the screenplay, and he does a good job with what he's given. Jeremy Strong's the best acting performance in the film, but I think without the movie getting anything else, and the supporting categories being really tough this year, I'm going to probably have to take him out of my 5. So that movie missed the mark big time. And even though there's a lot of people that disagree with me and loved it, like Ashley here on the screen, which, by the way, that's great. I don't want everybody to hate this movie, so I'm glad that you guys love it. It's mixed at best. At best. I wanted to look at some scores. So if we go back over here to Letterboxd, we were looking at Wicked for Good. Let's look at Deliver Me From Nowhere here. And let's see what some of the scores are here. So right here under my picture there, you see it? So it's got a 3.3 on Letterboxd, which is actually not bad. 3.5s or higher is where you really want to be, but that's not horrible. 6.9 on IMDb, and then you get 60 on Rotten Tomatoes, which is literally the last spot you can be before you're rotten. So that number may change. Right now, it's at a 60, but 81 audiences, and I don't know if verifies 84. See, among top critics is a 58. It's not a Best Picture number. And then even if it was, you see the Metacritic right here at 59. No, not Best Picture material. It's not going to make it. On my website, I did a written review for it as well, which just went up this morning. And I do scores out of 100, and there you see, I gave it a 57 out of 100. So not good, like almost a 6 out of 10, but probably closer to a 5 out of 10. And then the verdict is kind of sums up, how I felt about it. Deliver Me is a movie about meaning that never finds any. It gestures towards profound ideas, fathers, sons, fear, fame, loneliness, but never commits to exploring them. It's a cinematic equivalent of a notebook full of half-written lyrics. You can feel the intention, but the song never comes together. That's kind of how it felt for me. Now, if you have an emotional attachment to do it, if Nebraska's your favorite album, if Bruce Springsteen's your favorite artist, all this shit's going to hit with you. It's all going to be fine. And the last thing I wanted to show you, we looked at picture already for my power rankings here. This is the October version. This is not final, so don't quote me on it, but what's going to happen is House of Dynamite is going to be out. You see it at number 10 right there. Frankenstein is probably going to be in, and the other 9 will be in. So I'm going to basically be swapping for Netflix a House of Dynamite and Frankenstein, most likely. The Secret Agent is also climbing the charts on my list. Deliver Me From Nowhere might even be out of the 20 at this point. Song Sung Blue is going to go up a little bit. Is This Thing On is going to go up quite a bit. Is This Thing On is probably the very first spot outside of the 10 right now, because I just have a hard time thinking Searchlight won't have a Best Picture nominee. And if they do, with the mixed kind of what the fuck reactions to Testament of Ann Lee, I think it might be Is This Thing On. So that's why I said don't quote me on this, because that might actually be my 10th. And then something like Frankenstein would not be in there. So we'll see. That's what you're looking at for picture. So for lead actress, this would all be the same, except the order might be a little bit different. But I am one of very few, if not the only person in this space, at least on YouTube, that is not taking Jennifer Lawrence out of my 5 until I have to. Okay, she's in my 5. I just see her getting nominated. Okay, Kate Hudson's going to go up. So if this changes in any way whatsoever, I'm talking about the top 5. It's probably going to be Chase Infinity for Kate Hudson. That's probably going to be the swap out there. I haven't obviously seen Song Sung Blue, but my preference right now would be Chase Infinity because she blew me away in that movie, One Battle. So that would be the only change, but tune in next week, you'll find out. Let's see, lead actor would be next, right? So here, yeah, so Jeremy Allen White's gone. He's out of there. The other 4 are staying, though, and then I would probably put Ethan Hawke in my 5. I think that's what's going to happen. It's going to either probably be Hawke or Clooney. And I saw Blue Moon, so I feel better about it having seen it. I have that, substance with me to take with me, ingredients that I can use. That's probably going to be the only change is Ethan Hawke in here for Jeremy Allen White. I just don't think, another thing about Jeremy Allen White, I love him. The screenplay and the direction, they just don't give him anything to do like that would go, oh, give this guy an award. Even the music, there's only like 2, I think, live performances that we see. And one of them is not even his songs. It's like he's like singing old blues songs at the Stone Pony. So, you don't, even Timothy had that to go back on, right? Like he learned guitar, harmonica, he did all these recreated all these concerts. And, Jeremy Allen White doesn't even do that except for maybe 2 or 3 minutes in the movie. So we don't see a lot of that transformation. When he's, speaking in the movie, it's very like monotone. There's no outburst. There's no like tearful, emotional, plea, like none of that stuff. He does cry in the last act of the movie, but it felt extremely forced and way too late to try to have any kind of emotional connection. Supporting actress is this without Jennifer Lopez. So I got to decide what I'm going to do. I'm either going to have 2 actresses in from One Battle, or I'm going to have 2 in from Sentimental Value. So stay tuned. I think, a lot of people are going to say it's the stronger movie. I don't necessarily think so for supporting performances. That would be the case for lead, I would think, because they're carrying that project, usually, the lead performances. The supporting are just supporting. And one thing that's interesting about the actresses in One Battle After Another, when you're talking about Tiana Taylor and Regina Hall, is that they are truly supporting. Because Tiana Taylor's in the first 20 minutes and you never see her again. But her character is present throughout the whole movie. They refer to her, flashbacks, phone calls, talking about her. She's constantly being referred to, and the narrative that's spinning out of control in the movie is really because of what Perfidia kind of initiated, and the way she was and what she decided to do in her life is kind of why we're in the tailspin that we're in the movie, as far as the other characters' POV is concerned. I haven't seen Sentimental Value yet, but I've heard that Elle Fanning and Inga Lilias are tied in terms of the impact they have in the movie, and it's almost like a 2-hander for supporting. So it could be the 2 of them. Amy Madigan, a lot of people, that's not going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen. A lot of people have her in. I can't remember who it was. I think somebody had her number 1 last week when I was listening to a podcast. I don't get it. It's a horror performance. It's a horror movie. Yes, it's going to be probably iconic, 10, 15 years from now, or at least, we want to assume it will be. But, did the woman that was playing the mother character in Barbarian get an Oscar nomination? No. That was a great performance, especially from a horror film, but I just don't know what I'm missing. And I hope I'm wrong, if I'm being honest with y'all, because I love Amy Madigan, generally speaking, and I also loved her in Weapons. She was definitely easily the best performance and the most memorable performance in that movie, even though I love some of the other ones in that film too, and the screenwriting and a lot of other things, but she was the best part of it, don't get me wrong. I would love for her to be nominated. I would love to be wrong. I just don't see it happening based on what the Academy typically does, and I've got her in the mix because they are going to be campaigning for her, but they've got Sinners, they've got One Battle. They got too much stuff and too many actresses that, they're not going to get all 5 spots, single category. So I don't think Amy Madigan's going to be able to jump that hurdle. Emily Blunt's out, by the way. I don't know who I'm putting in for her yet, or maybe I do and I just can't remember. But she will not be in the 10 anymore come next month's updates. Glenn Close might be. Still waiting to see that movie, and it's Glenn Close. So whenever she's in a movie that has outbursty performances that could be Oscar clips, she's probably getting nominated. So I'm waiting because I heard she has a couple of those. in Wake Up Dead Man. Supporting actor, nothing's changed except Jeremy Strong is probably out now, and if so, it would be Jonathan Bailey. He's been going back and forth for me in my 5. I've also heard great things about Jacob Elordi, so he could jump up now that I have Frankenstein in picture. We'll see, but aside from the Jeremy Strong plummets, everything else is pretty much staying the same there in supporting actor. And then the last one I'll just show you real quick for an update is director. This is probably my director 5. I could get crazy and put John M. Chu in for like Trier or Zhao, but I think Chloe Zhao directed the Oscar winner for Best Picture this year, I think. So I'm probably not going to move her. And then the top 3 are the top 3. Unless it was just an accident, it doesn't get the notoriety that we think it's going to get, Panahi's in. But if the movie misses everywhere but like international, then maybe he won't get in. But obviously I won't know that till further down the road. So right now it would be like a Trier swap out because, you know, they've snubbed him before. He could still get screenplay, you know, that kind of stuff. So it would be for John M. Chu. So that, I don't know that yet. Hang tight. That could be something that happens when I put out my updates next week. All right, so just a quick update there for you guys, all of you guys that follow the Oscar race, and maybe you're regulars to my channel. If you're finding me for the first time, I apologize for the casual nature of this video. I usually have like highly produced, highly polished videos with like scripts and like graphics and all kinds of crazy shit. But I just want to give a quick update on how I'm kind of perceiving the receptions to some of these big movies that we're just getting reactions for the first time. Obviously, the one I'm most excited for is Wicked for Good. Let's fucking go. Also, Song Sung Blue. I think it's a real thing for Kate Hudson. Probably nothing else. And then, you know, I think Springsteen, Deliver Me From Nowhere is dead, personally. I mean, maybe Jeremy Strong, but you know, it just depends on how that field ends up kind of shaking out. Jeremy Allen White, unfortunately, is gone. But just like you, I'll be waiting to see how it all plays out. I'll be trying to kind of tell you what's going to happen and guess what's going to happen. Let me know down below in the comments. What do you think? Is Wicked for Good going to possibly be the most nominated movie at the Academy Awards next year? I think it's between Wicked and One Battle, or both, if they tie. I think those are the 2 that are going to get the most nominations. Or what about Song Sung Blue? Do you guys think that's an Oscars player? Kate Hudson? Yes? Anything else? Let me know. I always read through comments when I kind of update my power rankings too, to kind of see what the public is thinking, so I love to look through those, and I try to respond to as many of them as I possibly can because I really appreciate you guys. I'll catch you guys out here next time in the garage.